So the tariff war still continues to loom on, ladies and gentlemen, between the United States and Canada. This never-ending battle, this never-ending drama, it's turning into like a reality competition of will they, won't they. You see it all across the media. Now you got politicians, doubling down on their remarks and saying, for example, Doug Ford going on to say, we're going to cut off the power for the northern states. Take that, Donald Trump. Ah! It's the most pathetic thing to be doing at a time like this. The utter just stupidity of this, the doubling down on this retaliation when all these politicians really have to do is negotiate like grown ass adults and ration out like actual countries would be doing. It's part of diplomacy. It's part of actually building upon a trade relation. We have been the largest trading partners in the world for how many years? And it just seems to be doubling down and corroding with politicians' own stupidity, whether it being their ego fragileness, I don't know, or if it's just whatever their mindset is, it's just stupid. And it's turning this thing into a circus. For example, everything is on the table. Joly won't rule out cutting off energy exports to the United States in the face of Trump tariff threat. This is from CTV News. Melanie Joly, obviously being the foreign affairs minister, she chimed in and had her own retaliation. Just like how Doug Ford threatened to cut off the electricity, Justin Trudeau is now making media appearances on CNN and MSNBC, threatening Donald Trump by saying, we're going to put tariffs on playing cards. I kid you not. He's imposing tariff threats on playing cards and alcohol like bourbon. So I guess your poker night in the United States is going to get affected, folks. But other than that, just shows how utter stupid this whole conversation is. So the article goes on to say, Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly is not ruling out any countermeasures when it comes to dealing with U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, his threats of significant tariffs on Canadian imports in particular. In an interview with host Vashi Capellos for CTV Question Period, airing Sunday, Joly would not rule out cutting off energy exports to the United States in response to those tariffs. What I can tell you is everything's on the table, Joly said, asked specifically whether the government prepared to cut off energy exports south of the border. Trump has threatened 25% tariffs on all imports from Canada once he's back in the Oval Office, a measure that would have devastating effects on both economies. Now, of course, that was also added on to the fact that Donald Trump threatened Canada with these tariffs, but in response, he also said, unless you fix your border and fix your immigration crisis and fix your fentanyl crisis. That was also added to the conversation, but the media doesn't talk about that. No one likes to talk about that, but they want to build upon this because this makes good television, folks. It's like the reality show of will they, won't they. CTV News confirmed this week that Canadian officials are preparing a list of American products, including steel ceramics such as toilets and sinks, and Florida orange juice that could be targeted with regulatory tariffs in response to Trump's threats. Oh my God, there goes my breakfast. I can't have Tropicana juice. I can't use my crapper. Oh my God. This is the utter stupidity of this. And Justin Trudeau goes on to CNN and MSNBC and says, you know what? I see that, and I'm going to raise you tariffs on playing cards. This is just the most stupidity coming out of these grown-ass adults when all they have to do is sit down and talk like grown, rational, reasonable human beings. Like, have we forgotten how to do that? Have we forgotten diplomacy altogether? Do we have to take a masterclass to actually discuss with one another? Ontario Premier Doug Ford, meanwhile, had previously threatened to cut off electricity from his province to 1.5 million homes in New York, Michigan, and Minnesota as a last resort. As a last resort. Yes, remember, he always quoted that as a last resort. I haven't thought of any plans to not do that, but as a last resort, I'm just going to cut off the electricity. Like, screw them. Which shows, one, how stupid that guy is. He's Duns Ford for a reason. And two, New York, Michigan, and Minnesota, I'm pretty sure, have their own means to getting electricity. I'm pretty sure after the 2003 blackout, where it took out most of the northeast United States and a lot of Toronto and up towards Ottawa, I'm pretty sure people have figured out by now that, yeah, maybe we should, invest into our energy grid so that doesn't happen again. So that there is a blackout, it doesn't affect everybody. Ford later clarified his comments were about standing up for Canadian workers. No, they weren't. He didn't mention at all Canadian workers in that conversation. It was about Trump. It was about his ego. It was about a bully. That's what all this is about. It's confronting a bully. So what do you do when you confront a bully? You become even more of a bully. And you forget all your initiatives to actually help Canadians, to actually help the working class, who are going to get screwed no matter what of this. That's why you go and sit down with Donald Trump, you negotiate and come to some agreement that benefits working class Canadians and Americans. Because both sides are going to get screwed if they continue on this tariff battle royale. He struck a more collaborative tone, pitching an energy plan that would rely on and build upon Ontario's existing nuclear infrastructure to deliver more power south of the border. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith, Quebec Premier Francois Legault, and Newfoundland and Labrador Premier Andrew Furey have all said they are opposed to cutting off energy exports to retaliate. So while Duns Ford is spewing his mouth on CNN and American outlets, these lovely premiers are actually taking the high road, are actually being the reasonable ones. They're actually taking a second, take a deep breath, and work together as rational adults. And especially in the case of Alberta Premier Danielle Smith, because she is used to negotiating with bullies. She's negotiated with her own federal government when it comes to the Alberta economy, when they keep putting on restrictions about their oil and their natural gas reserves, when it comes to the Alberta oil sands. Justin Trudeau has put sanctions, have put on restrictions and retaliated against the Alberta economy, and Danielle Smith has always had to negotiate that. So she's used to this. And considering the fact that cutting off the energy exports means her own economy is jeopardizing this, of course she's going to actually take a note to actually be the rational one to say, no, this is ridiculous. The premiers will meet this week with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in person to discuss the Canadian response, with plans to travel to Washington, D.C. together next month for a Council of the Federation mission. Joly said the question of whether to cut off energy exports to the United States will be a topic of conversation between the federal government and the premiers, and one she'll take to Republican lawmakers in the United States during her planned visit to Washington this week. Because this is indeed a decision that would be taken by President-elect Trump that would have that have devastating impacts on Canadians, she said. And also, for those who are watching us right now, it is important to understand that the threat is real and we're acting on it. And that's why I'm calling for every political leader in this country to be on board, because this is not the time for division. So apparently, acting like an adult, Danielle Smith going to Mar-a-Lago, which we're going to discuss later on, that's apparently sowing division. Actually going there to defend your economy, going down there to defend Canadians' economy, because these energy exports are a big proponent of Canada's GDP. They're a big proponent of Canada's overall economy. And if you're going to cut off the energy concern, first of all, that's also going to cut off other provinces, because those pipelines go through other provinces and meet the needs of those people. So you're not only threatening the United States, you're threatening your own people by doing this. And that's why Daniel Smith and other premiers are saying no to this, not to sow division, but because they know how absurd all this is, and they're actually going to fight with a good case and argument and ration it out with Donald Trump, because Donald Trump, despite all of his character flaws, due to his business acumen, I see that he is a negotiator. He is someone that's willing to sit down with people and hear them out and come to some sort of business conclusion. That is all this involves. That's all they have to do for this. But you get idiots like Joly, you have idiots like Trudeau, you have idiots like Doug Ford, who want to tackle it out like some sort of schoolyard fight. Oh, yeah? Well, if you're going to put tariffs on it, I'm going to cut off your electricity. Put them up, put them up. Like, how stupid these people can get. Joly pointed out that the threat of tariffs has never lived during the United States election campaign, but rather one Trump has introduced more recently. We're reacting to his new rhetoric now, Joly said. We've gone through Trump 1.0 administration, she also said, pointed to tariffs on Canada steel and aluminum imposed by Trump during his first term as president, and Canada's very specific, very surgical response. Yes. So we've gone through this before. We've gone this before when Trump was elected in 2016. He imposed tariffs on steel imports from Canada. He also imposed tariffs when it came to dairy, when it came to some agricultural agricultural industry. He imposed tariffs on that. What was our response back then? Was to go and talk to Donald Trump, and that was when we formed a new trade agreement called the USMCA. Now, obviously, the USMCA has some flaws. It needs to be built upon. There needs to be some updates. There needs to be some criticism to it. But it didn't go to this. It didn't go to the utter stupidity of, oh yeah? Well, we're gonna tariff you then. The first Trump presidency, they actually negotiated. They came to a conclusion with a simple trade deal. But no, now this time they've just gone further down to rock bottom in the utmost stupidity, which is an embarrassment. It's turning into an embarrassment. That's why all this conversation that could have easily been avoided by just going to Mar-a-Lago and talking to Trump directly and making a strong critical argument to defend our economy has turned into this clown show. And it's just the utmost stupidity. And it's an embarrassment for Canadians. It's an embarrassment that they're going on American media spewing this crap. It's an embarrassment worldwide. That people like Melanie Joly and Doug Ford and Chrystia Freeland and Justin Trudeau and so many other countless people. Again, I don't know if it's just the mindset, the ego fragile mind, but it's just absolutely crazy. That's what we'll do, Joly added. But at the same time, 25% tariffs on the entire Canadian economy is extremely, very important. So that's why we're putting everything on the table. When asked whether Trudeau's decision this week to resign as Liberal leader and Prime Minister compromises Canada's negotiation position with the United States, because it turned this country's leader into a placeholder during two critical months in the bilateral relationship, Joly wouldn't directly say. The Prime Minister took his decisions, he said. Now I'm looking forward and we are leading. And what I'm doing is I will be leading, along with Dominic LeBlanc, the Minister of Finance, our reaction to what the Americans will be doing, she also said, adding she continues to engage with Trump's team. Well, obviously it's not the most effective way. She's continued to engage the same way that people thinking that they're stopping bullies engage with. And then they become the bullies. Instead of actually sitting down, talking like grown-ass adults, rational people, which we can do, as even discussed in this article. We've done this before with other tariffs. Why are we not doing it then? Why are we not doing it then? Why are we not focusing on the fact that this is an ultimatum, by the way? That all this was a response for Donald Trump to put an ultimatum on Canada to say you have to fix your border security, which is what majority of Canadians want. And Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party continued to deny it, continued to completely be silent about it. And all it really was an ultimatum to say you need to have talks, you need to have negotiations to fix your border, to fix your fentanyl crisis, to fix the immigration crisis that's causing havoc to Canadians. And majority of Canadians agree with that. But they don't agree to this clown circus that's put themselves into. And the fact that, well, I guess Canada should just become the 51st state. Because apparently sovereignty is such a joke, independency is such a joke at this point, that it doesn't matter at this point. Doesn't matter. We'll go to the United States. Go to the United States. In fact, take Mexico too. Take the whole entire Western Hemisphere. And we'll just come a Pangea for the globalist empire. Instead of actually fighting for individual sovereignty of this nation and the good and hopes of Canadian people. So, you know who else also doubled down their own stupidity and also added more fuel to this just pathetic fire? Is Jagmeet Singh. Jagmeet Singh, who claims to fame of being the, NDP leader fighting for Canadian workers, but he hasn't done really much since. All of his words are just empty gestures. Oh, I'm fighting for Canadians. I'm standing up to the grocery empires. I'm gonna fight for grocery prices because it's all captured by corporations. It's corporations price gouging people. Has he done anything since? No, absolutely not. So, Jagmeet Singh, Canada must shut off critical minerals to U.S. to counter Trump. So not only will we be losing our GDP and our economy through exporting natural gas and oil, but also the minerals. Like, how to diminish more and more of this economy. The absolute stupidity of these people. The absolute stupidity of these people. I don't know. I don't know if it's the ego fragile life and just how they operate and how they just think it's like some sort of high school drama fight that they're now trying to stand up to bullies like Trump and the MAGA movement. I don't know what it is. It's just the utter lunacy of this is just laughable. And here he says you have to stand up to bullies. Donald Trump and Elon Musk, more billionaires backing Polyev, need our critical minerals. So, of course, trying to make this into a hit jab, not only for America, but Pierre Polyev, who, by the way, Pierre Polyev is saying, no, we're not going to cut off the energy. No, we're not going to become the 51st state. He's actually willing to fight for Canadians. As much as, people criticize him, I have critiques about him, he's at least willing to engage with Donald Trump and fight for Canadians. Not using Canadians as the centerfold of this stupid showdown, like a WWE match. That's all so pathetic. We know that this is all fake and phony, that all this could have been resolved if you actually sat down with the guy himself and talked it through. If Trump attacks Canadian workers and jobs with tariffs, let's fight for them by cutting off the flow of critical minerals to the United States. Yes, fight for Canadian workers by making it worse for the working class. By making sure their industry doesn't actually receive profits. Make it more scrutinous for the people that work in the manufacturing sector. Canadians are kind and generous, but don't ever make the mistake for a weakness. Yeah, we're kind and generous, but this doesn't represent Canada. Unfortunately, this is part of the WEF plan, Klaus Schwab penetrating a cabinet, penetrated Justin Trudeau's cabinet. This doesn't represent Canadians. Canadians just want to fight for a better country. They want to keep a lot of their sovereignty. I know there's few people out there that make the defense of, well, Obviously, if Canada joins the United States, then it would be an economic powerhouse towards Russia and China and so on and so forth. What we need to do, and just in my view, what we need to do is not lose our sovereignty, fight for our independence, make our country better and stronger by investing into our people, investing into our industries. And if Donald Trump says he doesn't want the oil from Canada and doesn't want the exports from Alberta, then we need to look at maybe we need to nationalize our reserves, which I know sounds like a dirty word because any country that has nationalized their economic prosperity has met with an imperialist force on their back, breathing down and taking control. I mean, look at Libya, look at Syria, look at all these other countries, look at Venezuela when they nationalized their oil reserves, and then all of a sudden America showed up and said, "Oh, I hear you have oil. Yeah, I don't like this national talk. It sounds very socialized. Yeah, that's not going to work well for us." Boom. So there's ways to get around this. There's ways that could actually benefit the greater outcome of this instead of turning this into a pathetic just showdown, this make-believe fight that in the end isn't going to benefit anybody. And the more they continue on this, the more embarrassing it is for our people, embarrassing for the working class, because it doesn't represent us. It doesn't represent the working class. No, nobody asked nobody asked to put tariffs on the United States to counter Donald Trump. It's just utter lunacy of these politicians. And I don't know if it's just, the mentality of it. I don't know where it comes from. But the fact that there are some premiers that are willing to sit down and act like adults while these childish politicians continue on to retaliate just shows how broken and divisive the country really is, and the political specter of Canada really is. And the fact that Melanie Joly is screaming at people like Danielle Smith, the Premier of Alberta, to fall into line. You have to cut off your energy. You have to cut off the energy to the United States. That's what that means. Oh, you can't be divisive. You can't sow division by going down and talking to him. You got to get into line and shut off your energy, which is going to cripple more of the Alberta economy. That's why she's going down to fight. That's why other premiers are going down to fight, because they understand that this is negotiation time. This is not put up a petty fight. This is actually sit down, talk like actual adults, and work this through, because it's worked before, and I'm sure as hell we can do it again.